Would you say are the most common challenges that leaders are looking to you for help? When leaders reach out to you, say, Dermot, can I talk to you? I mean, I don't know how often this is happening, but it seems to be quite a bit.
Yeah.
What are the most common challenges you're hearing from leaders?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things, really, if I, dial it in here to some target areas. But one of them is, they want to grow, but they feel stuck. Like they've reached a certain level, whether that's leadership and their personal development or as a business, they just feel like they feel stuck, but they still have this sense of like, I want to grow, but I can't. I think the other thing would be a lot of times they feel frustrated with themselves and others. And that wears them out, and a loss of perspective and clarity because they're working from that place. And then I would say, honestly, a lot of, and this is probably more and more, is burnout. Or borderline burnout, and again, I've experienced all of those things, and so I would say
I've contributed to some of that.
That's part 3 of the series, but it's going to happen. We've talked about it; it happens, and so I would say they're the big things. It's like this frustration, this tension between I want to grow, but I'm stuck, and then loss of perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like as a leader, you can be very passionate and very fired up. Very clear in your goal. You can be very aligned, but you need to keep those guardrails in place. What is some of the best advice you've offered some of these folks? I mean, I see it all the time, and burnout is a huge one. So it's like it's kind of this frustration of I want to do more, which is the foot on the gas. I'm feeling burned out. Let me put the foot on the brake, and the gears are grinding. And here's how I used to do it, and I got to a certain level of success based on what I used to do. I've been reading this book or met this person. Here's what they're doing that's new. Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm stuck and I got my foot on the gas, foot on the brake, and the gears are burning. What's been some of the best tips you've given people or insights at that time?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is sometimes, we've experienced this, so sometimes it's not a growing season. Sometimes it's a learning season. And it's really important to know the season you're in, and to accept it. And sometimes an organization is growing up to the growth that you had last year. Or as a leader, you're growing up, you're just catching up to the growth. You're still digesting it. So a couple of things. One is, Steve Jobs used to talk about his ability and his gift was to be able to zoom out from the problem, zoom out for the business, and then he could zoom back in. So I think one of the ways is like, get above it, create some space, step outside of it, analyze, hey, what season are you in? I think taking a breath is important to just don't run around the place holding your breath. Like take a breath, realize this is part of the process, and kind of try and, enjoy the process. I think the next thing is just get help. I mean, there's people inside of organizations, there's people outside of organizations, there's people in our networks. There's no problem that you and I are trying to solve on a daily basis that somebody hasn't gone through in a different way. And then get clear. I have a guy who I worked with about this time last year. And he had a big job inside of a pharmaceutical company. And when he came to me, he was tired, burnt out, stuck, and he was getting really frustrated inside of his own executive meetings with other people in this meeting. And people were like, "What's up with this guy?" He was just pouring out of him. So I just sat down, asked him a bunch of questions, like, "What's going on?" And this guy he had been a captain in the army. And a lot of people who come out of the military find it very hard to transition into civilian life because you go from, yep, yes, sir, let's go do, to people like, I'm not sure if that's the best idea. So he even had that tension from like, why aren't they doing what I'm telling them to do? Well, after talking to him for a while, he told me that he managed about 50 people in 4 different teams of salespeople. He had regional directors, and he's the VP. And after a while, I'm like, you seem like you've got the perspective of the salespeople, not as a leader. So what happened was he was wanted to serve his team. He got down on their level, and he understood their perspective, but he got mired in their problems. They got mired in where they were stuck. He got mired in where their frustrations were. So I said to him, "Hey, who do you report to?" And he goes, "I report to the executive VP." "And who's that person report to?" "The CEO." So I said, "So you're 2 seats away from the CEO of a $6 billion organization?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, we need to start playing up from there." you have lost your perspective as a leader because now you've taken on the perspective of a frustrated salesperson and you cannot lead them from that perspective. How about we get you to play up? How about we get you to play up on, what is your boss's perspective? What are they asking you to do? What are they clear on that maybe you've lost perspective on? And work your way up to the CEO. And I can tell you, just that perspective alone and changing that direction and him getting out of that environment, he was able to come back to that team and go, hey, I recognize the problems. And I know them and I've lived them with you. But here's what we're going to do because here's the direction of the company. So it's a process. I guess it's easy to get stuck there. But, he made tremendous progress within like 3 months just by changing where he led from.
Thanks for watching. If you want more tips on how to think, feel, and do better, check out these videos too. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave us a like if you enjoyed the content.